Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Lessons Learned by SMU Alumni, interviews, the job search in the first year of nursing. We're bringing it to you it's brought to you by Career Services, myself, Kathryn Ward, Rachel, who I know a lot of you know, and then Robin, who is our student services coordinator on our Sacramento campus. I primarily work on the Oakland campus, and then of course Rachel, as you know, is a friend of all here in San Mateo. I want to also introduce our compadre in alumni affairs, David Nakayama, who kindly brought us, collaborated with us and brought us swag, and also kindly brought us breakfast and lunch today. Woo woo. So feel free to go get a coffee, fruit, muffin, whatnot. While we're here, we're keeping it casual today. But I want to get to my alum here who are to answer questions for you, offer pieces of advice. I will moderate that panel. If folks in Google land are having a hard time hearing the alum, who I will ask to speak up, then if you're having a hard time, we can always use the microphone. So I want to get started because we're gonna transition at like 10:50 at this point into a break, and then transition into our interviewing introduction and activity. All right, so starting with the Q&A. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So good to see all these shiny faces. People from all spans of my career here at SMU. But first I want you all to introduce yourselves and tell us where you work, and also what cohort you were in, and one piece of advice that you would give to a student. If you could only give one piece, what would it be? So we'll start on the left side and go to the right.
I'll be sure to address the camera at some point too.
At some point.
Right. So I'm Jeff Smith. I was in the November 2015 cohort here at Kelly. I work at Mills Peninsula Health Services over here in Burlingame in the ICU. Oh, and my piece of advice, treat your preceptorship like a job interview, because that's exactly where I had my preceptorship, and that's exactly where I got hired. Right after I passed the NCLEX, within a month I was hired there.
Hi, my name is Julia Reed. I graduated in November 2014. I absolutely agree with Jeff. I too got hired where I did my preceptorship. I work at San Francisco General Hospital. And I would say that my best piece of advice is to really do some soul searching, especially toward the end of school, to define who you are and who you want to be as a nurse. I think you leave nursing school really frantic, trying to get a job and you're really beat down, but really try to decide where you want to go and who you want to be. It'll help you to really fine tune your job search, and it'll make you a stronger candidate.
Hi everyone, my name is Sean Lau. I'm from Stanford Hospital. I graduated in 2010, so ways back. And I actually helped manage 4 different units over there, 2 med-surg, 1 infusion clinic, and a big team. So my one piece of advice is to be goal-directed, but be flexible. There's no one path to a career, a successful career. So be open. And there are many different ways, and there's many different avenues to nursing, as you guys are well aware of. But just be aware of them and be nice to everyone.
I am Sabina Khan. I graduated with Julia November 2014. Oh, I have to speak higher. Okay. November 2014. I currently work at Kaiser Santa Clara in the oncology unit. And my piece of advice would be just be really organized at the end. Like people mentioned, you're very frantic at the end, but if I could go back, I would have started applying towards the end of my course while I was in my preceptorship.
My name is Chrissy Igens. I graduated in December 2014. I work at Stanford on the step-down unit there. And my best piece of advice would be kind of similar to what Sean said. Be open-minded. Sometimes where you start is not where you think you want to end up, but maybe it's a better way to get where you want to be. And also just be kind to yourself. Be very forgiving of how you're feeling.
My name is Rachel Mondino. I'm at UCSF Benningham Children's Hospital, Oakland in the PICU. I graduated June 2014. And my one piece, this is Mattia. And my one piece of advice would be, this is a career that you want to have for presumably the rest of your life. So it's not necessarily about the name on the hospital. It's about finding a place where you want to go to work. And even if that's not where you thought you would be, keep an open mind, because happiness and liking your coworkers makes a big difference in your ability to be a caregiver.
Such great advice from everybody. I love it. Hi everyone, my name is Sangeeta and I have my own company in digital health called HealthSee, and we serve chronic patients and side effects for various health conditions. Before this, I worked at Mayo Clinic, Stanford, UCSF. My advice would be to not be afraid to step out. And what I mean by that is, even in your career, look outside the norms. So, for example, outside of California, if possible, for jobs, outside of the standard med surge into outpatient services for jobs. So try to think what Julia talked about, finding who you are, trying to understand that, and then finding the right place for you will help you to go far. And network as much as you can, join professional organizations, meet people, because you will learn what it really is like to be in that profession, and you will get to know people and they will get to know you as a colleague, which will make it much easier for you to rise up in your career.
Great, thank you everybody. Wonderful pieces of advice from all breadths of experience, I think. Before we continue, I forgot to introduce Maria Salas, who's here to help us out from Samuel Merritt Human Resources. So she's going to help us out with the interview activity later. So thank you, Maria. And also thank you all for coming. I know that it takes a lot for you to take an hour or two out of your busy schedule, because a lot are your ABSN students or ELM students, and you're super busy. So we really appreciate you being here in person and online. So I know that the folks on the Google broadcast, they have a series of questions all ready for us. So why don't we start with one of those questions?
Sure. So our first question from Callie is, and Jeff, you kind of alluded to this already, what advice do you have around filling out preceptor forms? She's a current student about to fill that out. And how much, if at all, do you feel that your preceptorship helped or hurt you in your job hunt? So any of you can respond to that.
It looks like Julia has something to say.
I feel very strongly about this. I think, just like Jeff said, treat this like it's a job interview. Treat it with the utmost respect. There are two ways to look at preceptorship. You can look at it as choosing an area of specialty, or you can look at it as choosing a facility that you want to work for. In my case, I wanted to work at San Francisco General Hospital. I knew that, and that for many reasons. I won't go into that necessarily, but I knew I wanted to work there, and I knew that the best way for me to get hired was to spend more time there. Whether it was eating lunch in the cafeteria or doing my preceptorship there. So I chose to choose, I wanted my preceptorship at San Francisco General Hospital, and I didn't care what specialty. It worked for me. I was hired, I was verbally offered my job in my preceptorship, took my NCLEX, and had my job within a couple of weeks. So that was the way I went about it. Also, during your preceptorship, take advantage of every hour that you're there. Don't I mean, if you can squeeze in an extra hour, do it. If you can, every chance you get to be on the floor, do it, because you only have one shot and it's your real world experience. So that's what I would have to say about it.
Just to offer kind of an alternate, not that I disagree with anything that Julia said, but like I don't work in anything similar to what I precepted in. I precepted in labor and delivery. I loved it. I had an amazing experience. It went really well, and they were like, we'd love to hire you. We just can't hire a new grad. So, I mean, your preceptorship can go amazing, and you still won't be able to get a job in either at that hospital or in that specialty. But, I was really encouraged that they were saying, just, get your year in something else. If you still want to do what you precepted in, then you'll have your experience and you can come back to that. So I think the core idea of treating your preceptorship like a job interview, you get all the experience that you can, learn how to work and communicate with nurses, ask all the questions and everything, but try not to get so tunnel vision of this is the only option that I have, because I feel like that was really disappointing for me for a little while because I was so wedded to the idea of doing that. But I think for me in the long run, at least, it's turned out that I feel like I'm going to be more well-rounded once I weasel my way back over to what I really, really want to be doing.
Yeah, I want to add to that too, that I think I was one of 3 people in my entire cohort that managed to get hired where they precepted. So do not be disappointed if that doesn't happen. And a lot of people also found that they actually really hated either the location or the department or the specialty. I mean, like they I want to try ICU. I'm like, whoa, this is not where I want to be. So it's just another opportunity to get experience in another location, another department. And if it doesn't work out as a job, that's okay. But I think the point is network as much as you can. I mean, treat any of your clinical assignments as a job interview, as an opportunity to meet people. And if you decide, I don't like this place, but you know what, this person knows someone, you never know. It really is about who you know. It's about those connections you make when you're in your clinicals, any of your clinicals.
I think to touch upon the documentation aspect they were asking for in choosing a preceptorship, like I made sure that I had really good recommendations from my instructors. Like I didn't want them to just write like okay and sign your name. Like I wanted them to write qualities about myself, and even some of them were like, well, what do you want me to write? I'm like, here's a list of things I'd love for you to write about. So I made sure that I had my clinical, especially if it's like especially like labor delivery or like I was in the NICU. I made sure that I got my clinical instructor. I think he was clinical but I made sure like for peds and labor and delivery and maternity. And then I would like submit like a couple more other people. I made sure, I think at the end of my program, people were scrambling for letters of rec. That's also good advice that I could give, that I made sure as I went along the way that I was fresh in those people's minds to write me a letter of rec on the spot. And then they actually appreciated, like, thank you for not contacting me 6 months or a year from now, where I have a vague information of who you are. So, yeah.
Or where I'm trying to write 20 letters in one week.
Exactly.
Nice.
To add to this, I think great advice from everybody. When I went to the different units, whether it was my preceptorship or any of the rotations, one thing I try to think about is this is where I belong right now. So this is my family. These people are my family, and how can I add value? So as much as possible, any place you go, there are going to be some things that are good and some things that are challenging. Sometimes one is more than the other. But whenever I was placed, whether it was in my preceptorship or in any of the rotations, I tried to make sure that I think of this as this is where I belong right now, and this is where I need to do my best to bring value to the unit, to the people, and care for them. So care not just for my patients, but also for my colleagues, for my manager, for whoever is working with me, and see what I can do for them. So there would be times that I would do something small that is solving some problem for them or that is adding value to them. And this aspect of caring went a long way, because even though I didn't work at the hospitals where I interned or did my rotations or precepted, they went above and beyond in making sure that I got to the place I wanted to go. So they wrote me. I found out Mayo application, I think Thursday or Friday, and it was due 3 days later. I sent for letters of recommendation, not expecting to get anything back within 3 days. And I had them within 24 to 48 hours and personalized recommendation letters. And they even, some of them even reached out and called. So you never know. If you show you care, you never know who might return that favor back to you. It always comes back in some good kind.
Great. Can we move on, or are we good? Okay. So, are we good? Are the folks good online about that response? Wonderful. So I want to, ask the group what's a question that you all have, or does someone have a question for these folks?
I have one really good question about the precepting in the letters. You said go ahead and start getting letters early on. So if we were to get letters of recommendation now, if it's 6 months old by the time we apply for a job, does that matter?
No, most of them will keep it on record. And I've asked for a precept, when I was graduated, I was like, could you refresh the date? It's not a big deal for most people.
I have a comment about letters of recommendation. Keep in mind that quality is better than quantity. And so if it's not a bad idea to ask your clinical instructors for letters of recommendation along the way, but use your best judgment. If they're not exactly what you think, make sure that they're of the highest quality. And also, don't be afraid to ask people in the hospitals that you meet along the way for letters of recommendation. One of my dear friends now was a nurse manager at one of the clinical sites that I did in MCA 1 and 2. She now manages the emergency department at Kaiser Santa Fe. I just happened to be, make friends with her when I was in my clinical rotations. So as far as letters of recommendation are concerned, just make sure use your best judgment. Quality is better than quantity, and don't think that clinical instructors are the only recommendations that you can get. As you meet people along the way and develop relationships, really leverage those, because those can be more powerful than just your clinical instructor who's only known you for 5 weeks.
And then also, some people, you'll ask them like, hey, would you mind writing me a letter of rec? And they'll say, yeah, I'll get to that, and it's been 2 or 3 weeks, it's getting on. Just write it yourself and send it to them. And they'll most of the time, or they'll edit it, of course, or help them along the way, because that was probably one of the most
I'll endorse that.
Yeah. So not frustrating parts, but it's they're busy. They have their own lives. They have their own responsibilities. Help them out. Make it easy for them. Be like, here's a list of things that I'd love for you to touch upon that I think that you saw in me, or you could just write it yourself.
No, they're really busy, and my attitude when someone asks me for a letter, I do want a bullet point. What do you think should be in that letter, or even draft the letter itself? Because quite frankly, if you can't write your own letter for me, then why should I be writing a letter for you and being able to understand? Certainly, I will review it and I will make changes. I won't. It's going to have to come from me, and it does have my name on it. But you guys should be caring about this and putting as much work into it as I'm going to be doing.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
Absolutely agree with what everyone said. Do as much work as possible to make it easy for the other person to help you. So if you go, instead of going 50%, if you go 70, 80%, the chances of getting the positive response back is higher. And the quality of the letter is a lot more personalized, because you have put the points together, or you have written the drafts of what are the things that you care what most to highlight about yourself. So that definitely helps. And I think, Julia, what you touched on was as you're going through your rotations or what rotations you've already had and had a great experience, they loved you, you can go back and ask those people for recommendations and see what they say about you. They would be willing to refer you because they had a great experience with you and it could be more personalized. So I think by the second or third rotation, I figured this out. So as I was going through nursing school, I was getting the draft letters of recommendation. So when the time came for me to get the actual letters, I had half the work already done. So it was easy for them.
And just like you want to keep track of your patients and your patient experiences later for the behavioral questions that you'll ask. Just like you want to keep track of the patients for your behavioral questions, it's also, it's a good way to remind your instructor of, remember when you saw me or helped me figure out the pathophysiology for this patient, because I had this really complex patient. Remember when you saw me go above and beyond for this specific patient? That way they can tailor that letter not just to who you are, but the kind of nursing quality they saw you give.
And having a variety of letters, if you have one from a clinical instructor, one from a professor, one from your preceptor, they're going to all touch on different aspects of your practice, of your personality, and so I think that shows you as a more well-rounded candidate.
And so sometimes your clinical instructors are just bad at writing letters. And you'll have to go, I really wanted this amazing letter from my med surg clinical instructor, and this sucks. That's okay. Just let that go. They have busy lives. Was there something out of it that can be useful? Was there maybe a point you should take out of it to give to somebody else? That's fine. Sometimes you have to let that go too.
Great. Awesome. Okay, let's take an online question.
Okay, so the next question from Kat is regarding how much does GPA play a role in the hiring and job search process? I see some faces. Thoughts?
Let's start on the right and go down.
I don't think it ever came up necessarily. I put it on my resume because I was proud of my GPA. I worked really hard for it. My one for my first degree, not so good, but this was something that mattered to me, and so I put it on there as a reflection of how hard I had worked and how proud I was of myself. But it was never mentioned. Nobody ever said, "Oh, you got this GPA." So I did it. I put it on there for me.
Yeah, it's same for me. I put it on my resume as a reflection of just who I am and something to be proud of. I don't think it came up specifically in any of the interviews or any of the places that I got job offers. But I think it gave a reflection of some of my qualities, and it reflected that. So that's where I would say I think it played a part. I know that for Mayo and possibly this is true for Stanford, I'm not 100% sure. But they do look at your GPA to make sure that you are a good student. That's not to be an excellent student, that you are doing reasonably. You did reasonably well in school.
Literally none of the places I interviewed with or offered jobs to me asked me about where I went to school, what my GPA was. I put it on my resume because I was proud of it. But and I felt like it reflected well on me in general, but it came up 0 times.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. Yeah, no one ever asked you I see you got a 3.95. Where did that 0.5 go or anything like that? What happened there? No one ever asked that question. I think it does look nice if you can put magna cum laude or summa cum laude. I think that does reflect nicely on you. Yeah, nobody
When I look at resumes, I look for the story of who you are and where you come from and why you're successful. So there are some who are just that bright and that smart, and I want to see that. I want to see it consistently across your career. If you're one of those students, please, and one of those applicants, please put it on your resume. If you're not one of those students, certainly I hire all different types. We look at that. And it's not a black and white aspect of it. But I'm looking to see who are you and how are you presenting yourself and where is have you succeeded everywhere you've gone. That doesn't necessarily mean just GPA. If you've only gone to school, however, it might. So that's just kind of when I look at it. It just shows a reflection of who you are and what kind of worker you are. But it's not a black and white, in or out.
Yeah, I concur, absolutely agree with the panel. I did not put my GPA, I did put cum laude. And I also, in my resume, put things like specifically one of 3 students who, like I was one of 3 students who had a preceptorship at a level 1 trauma center. So that sounds, and I was. I'll also get into later that I hired a professional resume writer, and she helped me to come up with these things. And not come up with these things, but there are things that you're doing that show that you're a good student, even if you got a B or something else in MCA. You are not a bad student. You're doing things that your GPA is not the only thing that makes you look, that defines who you are as a student. You can be a darn hard worker and, maybe got a few B's along the way. So I think the story is really important. And
just one other thing is that every item on your resume should say, why should I hire that person and how were they successful? If you said, I did this and I did this and I did this, you know what? There are thousands of people who could have done those types of things. I managed this project. You should have a success factor of why I want to hire you over anyone else because you did those things. Otherwise, it's just filling space. And sorry.
No, I just think that you all are doing great. That's another thing. You're doing awesome. Like at this point, if I could go back, this is a little off topic, but you are doing great. I mean, I remember sitting in this classroom and just like, oh, like, can I jump out the window? You're doing awesome. Like you've made it this far. This is perhaps one of the hardest things that you'll ever go through. And so it's really difficult to think of all the great stuff that you're doing. And if your GPA is 4.0, awesome, put it on there. But if you've, struggled a little bit, it doesn't make you a bad student, and you can highlight some other great points. And no, my GPA was not important in getting me hired. And my manager actually asked for my transcript like a week later. Hey, can you email me your transcript? To answer the question.
And the flip side too is that you can be a 4.0 student and kind of really struggle in the job field. Struggle to get a job and struggle on the job. Where someone who got a 3.2 might be awesome. My husband, for example, was a C student in nursing school 18 years ago. But he excelled in his clinicals, and he is one of the best nurses in his field. So don't beat yourself up if you are struggling and you're getting B's, B minuses, C's. You may actually be fantastic when you hit the floor. You're just struggling in here. And a C in this environment is probably an A almost anywhere else. And this honestly was tougher than working in the ICU. I struggled more here. I cried more here, far more than I have in the workplace. But to answer the question, I did put my GPA on my resume. I can't say it didn't matter at all. Like as Sean was saying, I think it's one of very many things that they're going to be looking at when they look to hire you. But is it what got me the job? No.
I had
this much of it.
I had another student in my class that was very upset with me, a very good friend. And she said, Sean, I know you can do better in the class. I said, I have 4 children. I have other things going on, and I'm okay with a B+. I really am. I know I can get an A if I wanted to, if I put in the time and the effort, but I have other priorities as well. So it's what I focused on more so was learning the skill sets and learning the information as opposed to getting the best grade on the score and making sure that I got the top of the top. And certainly I congratulate those who do, and I understand the hard work it takes in order to get that. But it wasn't me, and I was okay to accept that. And if someone was going to say that I'm not okay for the job, then I'd say I'm probably not the right person for the job.
Also, just to touch, I mean, it's like bedside manner is huge in our profession. So you could be a straight A student, be a total, weirdo. They're not going to hire you if you don't display like social skills. So I mean, if what you lack in grades you can make up for in compassion and caring and great bedside nursing, like you're going to get hired. They're going to see that.
The total package.
We had people in my cohort who were 4.0 students and are very smart, talented individuals. Bedside manner was not there. And that when it came time for preceptorship placements, when it came time for interviews and jobs, where they are now reflects that. Because nursing, hospitals, everything is customer service based at this point. And you need to be someone that that particular organization wants to reflect.
Thanks. Question from the folks on site. Yeah.
In terms of looking for jobs, you talked about networking. So my question would be, I know some people in my cohort would go to hospitals and kind of, talk to group managers. What would you guys recommend? I know some places that don't say that at all, and some places or put their name on it and stuff.
So I have to repeat the question for the folks online. So what I'm hearing is you're asking about networking within the unit when you're in clinical. Is that after clinical? So going back to units you've worked on.
Hospitals, places you really want to work.
So going to new places or places you've done clinical at. Both.
Yeah.
Okay. So visiting hiring managers, unit managers. What are your feelings on that?
So I can speak from 2 points of because so HR is a big old block. I got hired on the unit that I precepted on, but my manager had to go to HR and say, give me your information, I want to hire her. HR has a very different idea of the type of person that they want to hire versus the unit manager. So a couple of people on my unit who've been really successful just called the manager directly, said, I've applied, here, talk to me, get to know who I am. And the manager liked talking to me so much, they said, all right, HR, give me their information, I want to bring you in. So just because you're not necessarily getting an interview or you're not getting through, that might not necessarily be because they don't want you. The people who work in HR are not nurses necessarily. So they have a very different idea of what should be passed along.
And I think there are certain ways that you can kind of finesse it. Like, probably I would suggest not just like walking onto the unit in the middle of the day because, they've got management rounds, they're doing all that kind of stuff. But if you call the front desk of the nursing unit, say, can I get the manager's phone number? They'll transfer you. You can leave them a voicemail. Just kind of like break through that way. Or if you can, sometimes you can go on the hospital website and like find email addresses for units or managers or whatever. And you can kind of, get your foot in that way. Or if you know someone or you were a clinical there or preceptor or whatever, you can sort of like find ways to get your name in without just like walking on and being a distraction or an interruption during the day that may stick in their mind in a negative way. So I would suggest doing it kind of like a soft introduction as opposed to just like a cold call.
Sean, what do you think since you've been involved in that world?
Do you know what it means to be professionally correct? If you don't know what I'm talking about, then don't follow any advice I'm going to give you. Okay, that's my one big caveat. And I hope I can answer this. What happens is both for me and when I go about it right now. For me, I actually was, I told these guys, we were talking about this earlier, but I was the first person to precept at the hospital that I precepted at. I actually did an informational interview with the director of nursing for critical care in that hospital because I had a friend who knew a friend and got me that informational interview. I didn't ask for a job, I asked for information on what do I need to do. Ended up volunteering for the director of nursing education at that hospital, ended up bringing San Francisco into that hospital now, and now having a preceptor program there. I hope it's still going on. So that's completely outside of what they tell you what you can do, what you should do. Ended up meeting with the CNO and her saying, oh yeah, I think we could find a precepting position for you, and then finally getting it a month later. So it can help, but it can derail you very, very quickly if you don't do it in the right fashion. Please hear that, because you can really do some major damage to your career if you don't know
What's
What's
what you're
the
doing.
wrong way?
That's probably the wrong way from, what's that?
What you said was probably the wrong way, or?
Well, I mean, if 100% of you did that, then it wouldn't be good, quite frankly. I mean, I also come with 12 years of experience in sales and marketing, so I know how to traverse different types of organizations and personalities and that kind of thing, and knowing when I cross boundaries and that sort of thing. So do what you're comfortable with. Be who you are. Be yourself. Listen. If someone's giving you negative vibes, back off quickly. But people often think that networking is throwing your card at 100 or 1,000 different people. It's not. It's creating relationships. So networking is not. In fact, if you were to give 1,000 people your resume, all of them would be in the trash if you were just to give them a resume. However, if you go and talk with them, understand who they are, understand their families, and have that kind of relationship, that's what networking is. So yes, network.
And just to add to that, I think when I was saying call, leave a voicemail, do your research beforehand, know, the mission and vision and values, have a general understanding of what hospital you're calling, what type of unit you're calling, so that you can say, it's not just, hey, I want a job. This is why I want to talk to you. This is what I'm interested in. Because then they'll be like, oh, it's not just some rando, calling to try and get a job. It's, oh, this person's actually interested in what we do here.
So I think great points everybody brought up. To keep adding to that, going back to something we touched on earlier, is finding who you are, what your strengths are. And I know that in leadership or one of the classes, you do an assessment about your strengths. So go deeper into that and try and figure out what are your strengths, what are the unique value add you bring, and where you want to go. Because if you set a rough path for yourself in terms of where you see, then you can, next step is you can think of, okay, given these are my strengths, this is what I can do. This kind of places, these kind of units, these kind of people are where I can add value and I will get along well. Right? And that's the direction I want to go. So you can start to proactively think about, these are where I want to end up. And then see, okay, to be there, what are the qualities they're looking in a successful candidate? What makes you an A+, a shining person in that area? And then go and do those things, right? So for example, I'm in oncology. So join oncology nursing societies, join various organizations, bring your flavor to it in terms of what you can do. Maybe you can write articles, maybe you can do something in that area. So get to know people, and for people to know you as somebody who deeply cares about that area and can add value. That's how you can go forward.
Thank you. So I see that the time is 10:50. Originally, I was going to stop for a break. Would you like to continue until 11? Yeah, I see nods, so we're going to do that. Thank you so much for answering that last question. So we can get more questions in, I'm going to move on because we have a really good one from someone online. Can you say what that is?
So Danielle would like to know, how can we set ourselves apart from the million other new grad RN candidates?
We were kind of going there. So.
Yeah. I think
Good segue.
What about you makes you unique?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to offer? There is no one else in the world just like you. So how do you communicate that to someone through, a lot of it has to be done on paper though. So look, have so many people, have Rachel, have Kathryn, anyone you can get a hold of, read your resume, read your cover letter, and make sure it reflects who you are. Because I did this preceptorship, I went to this school, I'm hardworking and diligent, please hire me. That's not gonna work. That doesn't tell anyone who you are.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I took kind of a unique route, and I actually hired a coach and a professional resume writer. It was the best money I have ever spent on myself. There are numerous resume writers out there. If anybody's interested in who I used, I'm happy to share it. And what I said earlier about really finding who you are, that is what really helped me to identify my skills and where I wanted to go. Yes, you know, you can have friends, you can have Samuel Merritt resources, look over your resume, but that's an option. I did it in sort of a really intense way, and it really, really helped me. And my resume was phenomenal. And obviously I had some help, but I would say that if that interests you, do something like that. It'll probably be not just for getting a job, but it'll be something. It'll be really rewarding for you as a person, because it helps you to realize how great you are and all the things that you've done.
So would you say, because I've heard you say that you felt like pretty beat down at
Yeah.
the end of the program. So
Yeah.
that
So
process.
my thing was, you know, through this program, first of all, how many of you thought you weren't getting into Samuel Merritt? How many of you thought how many of you were told that Samuel Merritt's hard to get into? Right? Okay, congratulations, you're all here. Okay, step number one. Then how many of you were told that, oh my God, like MCA, fail MCA, like, oh my God. I don't know who's made it through. Congratulations! I mean, the whole way through, it's like, you know, you're just, I just felt like, and I think at the end of the program, you're really beat down, you're exhausted, and then all of a sudden it's like, you have to put your game face on and talk about how great you are. And I don't know, it was just too much for me to handle. I needed some help. So that's how I went about it. And it's not for everybody. It didn't cost a fortune, but it did cost me a little bit of money. It's nothing in comparison to what we're paying for school. So I would say that if you're going to make any investment in yourself, it was just a really great thing to do. It helped me as a human. It helped me as the nurse I am today. It really did change my perspective. It's just really something to build me up, and I totally know what it feels like at the end, because you're beat down, and I think we all leave thinking, oh my gosh, you know, there's so many new grads out there. How am I going to be different? And that's my best.
So what are some specifics that you have all used when you were looking for a job to help you stand apart?
So the one thing actually two things. One is to be kind. Be kind to everyone. Okay. I love the saying that's around the hospital all the time is you have no idea what battle people are facing when you're interacting with them. Be kind. The second thing is don't ever do the only work that you get paid for. Always go above and beyond. So that's the kind of people that I think in general we're looking for. Is people who don't say I wasn't paid for that. That's not my charter. That's not my responsibility. Because quite frankly, you have an opportunity, especially in precepting, to be able to shine, to be able to show everyone what you can do. And if you sit here and say, you know what, I'm not going to be paid for this, and I'm just going to do it at bare minimum. I'm going to compete with it. I'm going to see what everyone else is doing and just do that. No, do anything and everything you possibly can and work your butts off, and it'll pay. Regardless if you don't get a job there, you'll learn so much that it'll carry on to wherever you're going to go.
It looks like you have something to say.
Yeah, I had a unique, not, I won't say unique, but I came from a different background, and it's truly about taking time to figure out who you are. And I know after nursing school we are pretty beat down, so I would say whether it's take a weekend or a retreat or go out for some time, relax, get that deep physical, mental relaxation, and feel rested, and from that place of strength find who you are, what your strengths are, because that's your story, that's your unique flavor which nobody else has, and that's what you can bring. So and that's the story you want to reflect when you are communicating with people, whether it's over email, whether it's in your resume, it's in your conversation, or in your online profiles on LinkedIn, on Facebook, wherever you are publicly available. That's the story that should be reflected. So whether you need a coach or help of somebody to help you figure that out, do that. And the second point is, once you know what that is for you, continue to make progress in that. What I mean by that is, yes, we are all looking for jobs at that time, right? But don't wait for the job to happen. Do something to continue to add value, because in a few months you're all going to be nurses, right? Whether you have a job or not, you are a nurse. You have the title, and you have a scope of practice, and you have a responsibility that comes with it. Your mission of what you want to do. So for me, for example, that was about education and about the body, mind, and the holistic aspect of care. So while I was in school, while I was looking for jobs, I started doing skilled nursing, and I was going into people's homes and helping them to figure out. I was working as a CNA. I was volunteering at Kaiser in education. So I was already doing those things, and to advance that, to continue to add value to the society. And that's where people see the passion in you, and they're like, oh wow, she's unstoppable, right? So once you find out what it is that you want to do, be unstoppable. Don't let waiting for a job hold you down. Find things you can do today in your community, in your church, in your school, wherever that is. There are people who need you. So go do that, and that's when people will look at you and they're like, wow, this is great. We want her. We want him. That's what happened for me. I thought I was talking to the HR person at Mayo. I had not prepared for an interview, and that ended up being my interview. They didn't even call me for a second round. Said, we already know you're crazy about this. You're so passionate about it. You're going to add value. We'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. And this is Mayo Clinic. This is the #1 hospital in the entire world. They skipped their second round to just hire me because they wanted. And Kathryn knows the kind of craziness we went through to even make it happen. They wouldn't do it if they didn't care. Mm-hmm. They made a lot of exceptions. So that's the kind of candidate you can be, just by being who you are.
Any other? Thanks. Sorry to cut you off. Just looking at the time there. Any other specifics?
Yeah.
Well, wait, sorry, she's been,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
no, I was just gonna say, like, also, I think being, finding all of that about yourself, but also I think being really supportive of each other is really helpful. Our cohort was unbelievably, so we would like send each other job links. We would say, look at this new grad program. And there were a couple of us that had made insane spreadsheets of like new grad programs and hospitals that hire new grads, and we just like shared them with each other. Because we all wanted, of course we were in a sense competing for jobs, but we all wanted each other to succeed. So the more you can support each other, if it's not the right job for you, they weren't going to hire you anyway, so somebody else might as well get it. But I think it's really important to share those resources with each other and kind of approach it in a way that's going to be the best for you. For me, it was really helpful to just get a little insane about it and like make spreadsheets and go to hiring websites of hospitals. That's how I approached it. Do what works for you, because that's going to be the way that you're successful in finding something without driving yourself crazy.
Yeah. Sorry. Can I just add, I know you guys, I want to just add some specifics for you really quick, because I know we're kind of talking in general, but this might be helpful to make you a better candidate. These are things that I did. I just have a little short list. So joining organizations, we talked about that. There are, for example, I was a member of the Emergency Nurses Association, so that's a national organization. I got involved with the local organization. I actually went to meetings. So I would be like the only student, and then it would be all nurses. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but guess what? You're with all nurses. So do that, whatever you're interested in, get involved with the local organization. Conferences. I went to, for example, really quick, I went to this nursing research conference in Vacaville. Y'all know where Vacaville is? Yeah, I drove there. So I went there, and some people in my cohort actually presented their poster there. My group didn't win, but their poster went there. And I was the only other student there. And one of the nurses I knew from the Emergency Nurses Association, we were chatting, and long story short, she actually took me over and introduced me to the director of the new grad program for Sutter in Sacramento. I wasn't interested in the new grad program in Sacramento, but the point of the story is, it's at those places that these magical things happen. Nursing conferences, ACLS PALS. I highly recommend not doing it with your class, and this is why. Why do you want to take an opportunity like that to do it with a bunch of people that aren't nurses yet?
It's cheaper.
Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Go spend $20 more. Go look up the hospital you want to work at and take it there. I went to San Francisco General Hospital. I did it with all ER nurses. Some of my, not all ER, but mostly, anyway, some of my coworkers today were in that class, and they're like, oh, you were the student, ha, ha, ha. That's one of the specifics. Volunteer. I know right now you feel like you have no time, and you probably don't, but toward the end, volunteer. My manager basically only hires people that have had preceptorships at San Francisco General or have volunteered. It's like a well-known secret. And as a volunteer, you get to basically interview whatever hospital you're at. You get to interview the staff. You get to silently interview the entire place. You get to see if you're interested in the staff. You get to see if you're interested in the patient population. It's a phenomenal opportunity to get in there and get up close and personal with patients. So if that helps you, those are just like 4 specifics instead of talking in general. I hope that was helpful.
Okay. Unfortunately, we have to end here because it's 11:05, and we are on a schedule. But I want to say Rachel and I are going to do some magic during the break, so we can continue this conversation in addition to doing our interview activity. So we are going to work some magic.
Yeah, we are.
So I'd love it if we could take a 10-minute break for Rachel and I to have a chance to do that. Folks, alum that need to go, feel free to do so. Alum that can stay, feel free to stay. We will be getting together with the folks that will stay in just 5 minutes, all right? So again, 10-minute break. Go do what you need to do.
So just for all of you, the last part of this is we're going to teach you how to interview, and then we're going to actually practice interviewing with all of these fine folks and our other guests. So that's what's in store for you all. For our friends who are online, we will be here still to answer your questions. We won't be doing practice interview questions with you, but we will answer your questions because not all of them got answered during the panel. So feel free to stick around online as well to our virtual friends. But for you all, that's what's in store next. So eat some snacks, do the thing, and then come back.
All right.
Oh, also, thanks, friends.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to those alum who joined us for the Q&A. Again, for those who have to go, yeah, I completely understand. You can pick up your bag on the way out, or I think she's giving them to you now.
All about this.
So, Kathryn, so who's leaving? You stay?
Yeah. I'd be more than willing to leave contact information for people online, students.
Right. Or are going to.
So
No,
you have to do that later.
I didn't take it as I had. I went through the team hired. So I did the same thing as all the other new hires who had experience. But 11 people in my cohort went to the new job program at SMU.
Okay.
Still, I think they're just finishing up right now.
Okay.
That definitely is a new program, which is one of the senior.
So you want a job?
If anyone is interested in oh, come and join the college.
Because when I'm doing is kind of not holding out because I haven't gotten my ATT yet. But I'm focusing
Then there is
on
a dentist
holding out to get into the
holistic aspect of the yeah.
It's almost like better to get that year of experience in a program rather than a job. Because when you come out of that, you're more confident, you're more confident. I mean,
I'll say for mine was a 16-week orientation program.
okay. Job and hired.
It was job and hired. So it's at Mills Peninsula. The first 8 weeks was really rough because here I am, new grad. I'm trying to learn basics, and ICU.
Wow.
The first 8 weeks felt overwhelming. So I got to the halfway point. I said, "Here's a guy job. I don't feel like I'm going to get to where you need to be." The second half, all of a sudden things were clicking. It was rough. The first 8 weeks was rough. I'm trying to learn basics. But once I started finding pieces together, by the time I looked in, I hit the floor running. I've been on my own now for that class. And I forget that I was recently just like, no, I'm not this nurse. I'm doing the same thing.
I'm trying now.
It's the best money you ever spend. It's not for everybody. It's just like,
How would we even know about it?
So we were just gonna let
This woman specializes in nursing. Yeah, she's legit. Yeah, I told you guys, you may balk at the price, but I'll tell you what, if you're wasting money. I had a job in, I was doing a job in so we still get back at we're limited. We're doing this. And then we're going to move on exercise. Okay. And we're going to do it.
Yay. Nice to meet you.
Was there new grad program?
New grad program rather than student jobs. So in terms of
We just left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Friday, yeah.
Here's your
We had to like go to the
Rosa was the target.
He was brilliant.
we're gonna share contact.
No, I'm giving you the resume writer. Here, I'll just send up here.
I know.
They heard such a
Hang out.
That's one of the ways to manage, so,
Oh, shoot. Oh, she
that's what I assume.
Okay, so go to careersteering.com and she writes like on different levels. So she writes for like CEO level, and then she writes
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so dealing with a lot of patients.
yeah, you'll find her. Like she has some different websites, and she's a
But it's, I just came off of.
try this was a technology. The coach I only use is I just did a very small amount, like she's got my
At the same time.
Okay, cool. And then this one is a coach name. It's just she's like she's one. This woman, she's out of like nursing blogs and stuff. And she's really good. She's not a she's not like a she really helped build she helped build me up. Yeah, I really used her so yeah, everybody has to
Like, there needs to be a state-sponsored breeding program so that she can continue to have that.
Okay, friends, so we're gonna transition to the next part of our session. So this is the part where I'm gonna ask you all to sit over here. Sit over there. No, that's my turn. Okay, so we're gonna, I'm gonna talk over here real quick and ask you all to join me over in this direction. Okay. Anywhere? All right, so friends, if you're going to be participating in our exciting interview activity, there's a lovely handout that we have available for you over there. And so nicely, we have these Samuel Merritt pens that you can utilize to write on said handout. I mean, this is just great. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you a quick overview of an interview strategy that we find very, very powerful, particularly in answering behavioral-based questions, but also can be translated into many other types of questions using this format. So I'm going to give you the quick and dirty version of this strategy, and then our lovely alumni and other guests are scattered about the room with sample questions that you're going to be able to practice answering using this great strategy you're about to learn. Yeah. So on your handout, there's spaces for you to jot down and prepare your answers, as well as the questions already in the handout, so that way you know what you're walking into.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
So I had to interrupt some folks that were talking to the alum during the break. I'm so sorry, Kevin. Shout out to Kevin. I just want to say that we're having lunch afterwards, so they're going to be available during that time, so you can continue asking your questions. In addition, we're continuing a Q&A with the online folks, which we are recording. So you will get that recording after today, okay? Just to ease any worries or upsetness.
So we call this the STAR strategy. Online friends, I'll share this with you as well. STAR strategy, be a star in your interviews, right? So typically we start off like this in our interview skills. Okay, we have scared interviewee. Oh crap, did I really just say that? But don't worry, because with this strategy, we're going to transform you into this. You have a question,
I have the answer. And you're gonna be confident and ready, right? Confident, ready? Okay, so, you gotta have fun with it. So, many of the questions that you're gonna get in the nursing world, alumni, does this sound familiar? Tell me about a time. Give us an example when, etc. Most of the questions you're gonna get asked in the nursing interview world are what we call behavioral-based questions. They wanna know a specific story of a specific time when you did something. You're not gonna get, at least in the first rounds, a lot of these more general interview questions like that you would think of in more typical, like, oh, what? Tell me about yourself. Well, that's true. That tell me about yourself will come. But the more general stuff doesn't come. They want to know what you're like as a nurse and what you're going to be like on their floor. So many of the questions are going to be, tell me about a time. We already heard a pro tip from one of our awesome alumni. You should be writing down or somehow recording your great examples as you're going through the program. If you're not already taking notes on great things that you did or exciting events that happened, start now. And here's a format for you to be able to do that. Because you're not going to remember a year from now when you're interviewing about that one patient for MCA1 when you were scared to do an IV and then you figured it out and then the world was great. But that could be a great interview question. So, you don't watch The Office? This is Michael Scott. You don't want to be like Michael Scott. Michael Scott says, sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I'll find it along the way. You don't want to do that in an interview. In this case, for my Office fans, you want to be like Dwight. Am I ready for this interview? False. Is the interview ready for me? And this is how you're going to be ready for this interview. You're going to use our STAR strategy to formulate your responses. We like acronyms here. On your handout, we've got little descriptions of what each one means. So situation, you're going to set me up. You're going to give me the relevant details. I don't care that it's 70 and sunny outside, unless that's relevant to the story. For you all, I don't need to know every single vital sign that the patient had when it was presented to you. You figure out which of those vital signs are most important to the story and only tell me those. Now, as someone who's not a nurse, I don't always know that, but you get to let me know that, right? So you're gonna set me up in my situation. And then you're gonna tell me T for your task. What was the task or the challenge at hand? So I was walking by the room, doing rounds. I heard alarms going off. It wasn't my patient. Situation. Task. I needed to figure out why those alarms were going off and make them stop by doing something other than just turning down the alarm, right? There's my task. Then we have action. What did you actually do, right? And this can be tricky because it's not just what you did, but why you did it. I saw the alarms going off, her oxygen levels were low, so I raised her bed. Well, why did you do that? I wouldn't know to do that, I'm not a nurse. But you do, and you know why that's important, so you need to tell that to them in the interview setting, right? Well, that didn't work enough, so then I had to call someone else to come and assist. Okay, well, why did you do that? Why did you choose to call the person that you called, etc., right? Lots of good meaty stuff in the action section. And then this is the part that people always leave out, the result. What happened? Did she live? Did she die? Did she get discharged? Is she breathing? Oftentimes you get so caught up and be like, this is what I did, and this is what I did, and the code came, and then just, okay, well, was there a second date? I don't know. Make sure that you include the result, right? Now, in your STAR format, which ones do you think are most important?
Task and action.
Yeah, so action, I would argue that the action and the result are the most important things in regards to an interview. Not to sound callous, but I don't really care about the patient. It's not as important to me about the situation. I want to know what you did, why you did it, and that you can get me positive results, right? So when you're spending time answering, I want to spend more time here in the action and the result format than I don't need the whole setup of situation and task. I want to know more about what you did. So, pop quiz. In a general interview setting, how long should I be answering one question in the STAR format?
Less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes is a magical number. Yes. So depending on how long your interview is, you might get longer, but 2 minutes is a really happy place to be. You can fit a very nice, well done star answer into 2 minutes. If your star answer is less than 1 minute, you're not telling me enough. Okay? You need to be able to give me more in the action and more in the result if you're only going 1 minute long. But if you're going 3 minutes, 4 minutes, I'm bored. I'm probably confused, and I'm already thinking about the next question. So 2 minutes is a nice, good, happy medium. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to practice. Okay? So that way you can has a job. I had a really good time making this presentation. So on your worksheet, you have been given a table format: situation, task, action, result. 12 of those. So conveniently, there are 12 questions.
Now there's like 10.
Oh, just kidding. 10 questions. So 10 spots. You guys get it. Your numbers are hard. But I do just want to point out that this chart can be a very powerful way for you to be recording your experiences now. Like, I literally have a spreadsheet online with this format, and when exciting things happen for me at work or I have an impactful moment, I bullet out. This is what the situation was, this is what the task was, etc. I'm not looking for jobs right now, but in years from now, when I am, and I go back and think about, oh, when was the time I displayed compassion? Oh, look, here's this great example, and all the details are right there. So you can utilize this format. Some people keep like a journal, some people have like a memo ongoing on their phone. Whatever it is, this can potentially help you in getting your good answers going now before you actually get to the interview section. Okay, so we have tables and the signs are all around. So what you can do is you can figure out what questions you want to answer. You'll go to that table. One of our great guests will listen to your response and then provide you lovely feedback. Maria's questions from the HR perspective are not specifically behavioral based. So you can practice your tell me about yourself response, your elevator speeches. You could also maybe start thinking about how this format might be useful in the questions around like strengths and weaknesses. Well, I'm really organized. All right, well, can you tell me an example of a time when I was really organized? Just for example. This table over here is our preparation table. So if you are like, I don't even know how to answer this question, come over here and Kathryn and Robin or myself or our other folks will be able to assist you in preparing your responses. We're going to do this for the remaining time of our event, and then we're going to have lunch, and it's going to be great, and everybody's going to be happy. Yay. Okay, go.
So can you take this into another room to do the Q&A?
Yes.
Because it'll be too loud.
Yes. Online friends, we're going to go into another room and answer your questions.
What is this? I don't know. I'm gonna go see the reading room in the library.
I would love it to be for Marietta. It's yours. Oh, that's yours. How dare me? How dare I?
Might have steal my stuff.
From you.
Seriously, I earned this.
You can have it back. See if there's a one in there.
Oh, yeah, there's a button.
Oh, goody.
Nice. Hey, I'm actually going to be with here. I'm going to leave my card here, though, so if anyone else needs to get a hold of me and wants any, if they have any questions for me,
I do.
so we're going to leave a couple of my cards here.
Oh, okay.
I like to be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, but you'll get this. So we're actually going to move into another room so it's quieter so we get a good recording.
I don't know what that is, but it's sticky.
I'm sorry. Just move.
Yeah, I am. Hi, online folks. I'm really sorry. I'm bossing Rachel around.
Okay, friends.
Yes.
No, I should be good for the next half hour.
She said, like, what kind of questions they ask at which hospital, so that she had the idea of
Oh my gosh, you guys totally matched today.
totally unintentional.
I didn't notice that until.
I didn't notice it until I like was walking to the car.
I love it. I've never been in this room.
don't know if it existed while
was here.
I don't think it existed while you were here.
Okay.
Okay.
Still there?
Hello, online friends. We still have 11 viewers. So here's what's gonna happen. When I'm gonna, yeah, but I'm gonna let you get started answering some questions while I go tell Sean that this is where we are.
Sure.
So here's how we play the game. These are the questions.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna select one that you like.
Question.
Yeah.
Are they like preparing their answers right now?
Yes, and can you encourage them to do that and then to start?
Yes.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. So how about this question?
Okay.
So let me select it and we'll say, so we're going to answer the question about how will we know when new grad programs are being offered for hospital staffing, for example, Kaiser, Sutter, Dignity Health located in the greater Bay Area. So what thoughts about strategies or tools do you know of or did you utilize to help figure out what options were out there in your job search?
Yeah, for me, I knew pretty early on I wanted to work for Sutter. So I was paying attention to their websites. Plus I already had a relationship with the nursing manager for the ICU. It's my preceptorship. So I actually was in contact with her. In fact, the day that I got word from NCLEX folks that I had passed, I sent her an email.
Good strategy.
And thinking that, and I just asked her, I'm now officially a nurse. I've got my license now. We had talked a few months ago that you might be having some programs that'd be appropriate for new grad. Can you just let me know where they are in the process or who I should talk to? And I actually got an email back from within the hour saying, call me right now. And that's how the ball got rolling for me. But my class also we had our own Facebook group, and it was a clearinghouse of hey Sean, clearinghouse of new grad programs. I mean, people kept posting them. There's a couple other Facebook groups that people joined that also listed new grad programs and just new hire positions. So
great, we can look at it ourselves.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
So Sean, right now we're just answering the question about how might people go about learning about opportunities for new grad programs, particularly here in the Bay Area. What tools or strategies? I know you made things happen. Can you do me a favor and close?
Sure.
But maybe from the hiring perspective, like how do people?
I had other friends
know?
in the cohort who gave me that information actually,
Okay.
and they shared it, and it was really neat to be able to have a collegiate atmosphere that was non-confrontational and non-competition, that kind of thing. Work together. I mean, our class ended up getting, I think, 50% stayed in Northern California, which is crazy at that time in 2010.
Yeah.
It's crazy now, from what I hear. But our idea, and I think we had a specific culture and tone, was the right person's going to get the right job, and we need to help each other find the right place. And so we had people. There are other people that helped me and said, "Hey, here's all the opportunities, right? And oh, by the way, there's an application that's due at this time," and they'd send it to the entire class.
Yeah.
Our Facebook group, or other types of groups. So I know it can be very competitive, but really. The idea is we're there to help. We're here to help hospitals. We're here to help patients ultimately, and we should always be working as a team. And if you ever lose that team collegiate atmosphere, you may question whether or not it's going to show on your interview process.
Good point.
Yeah, nursing is a team sport.
It is.
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah.
It's nice if you actually have that camaraderie with even just a portion of your cohort. I mean, I think since we both were lucky, we had very cohesive cohorts. We all helped each other. We continue to, because I mean, I'm still a recent graduate, so there's a few of us who have not yet been hired.
Correct.
So we're still continuing. I mean, people are still posting on our Facebook page, "Ooh, there's a new grad program here," or "Hey, if you already have some experience, you're looking to go into this." So we're still continuing to have that networking amongst ourselves of what opportunities are out there.
Great. Very nice. Okay, good. That's a good question. So let's see. Oh, here's another question that we have.
I can't help you with the technical difficulties. Sorry.
No, technical. I think the technical difficulty. Oh, here, this is a good question. how do you get an idea of the workplace, coworkers, culture, et cetera, as you're applying and or interviewing? So I know we heard from another panelist, you're interviewing them in the same ways that they're interviewing you. So how did you all assess the culture, things like that?
I downloaded this from a recent article in Forbes 2 days ago.
Oh, awesome. Okay, all right. You can share with me this link and we'll send it out.
It's fairly generic, and actually the link isn't on there. It's just the 20 questions to ask your manager.
Okay, I'll Google it.
Okay.
Jesse, 20 questions to ask your manager.
Screen cap.
So yeah,
I learned as much from their questions to me as I learned from my questions to them.
Mm.
So I want to know someone who's engaged, someone who's active, someone who knows what kind of difference they can make, to look at what kind of opportunities are available, someone who's going to be a change agent, someone who's going to be, and also a good listener, and also, so someone who's fairly well-rounded, knows themselves, is transparent and open, and just that takes a lot of experience,
yeah,
in terms of knowing who you are. But that's, culture is huge with me. When I'm looking for someone, it's culture. It's always culture first. It's always team first. How are they going to play within the team? All it takes is one fly in the ointment to make it go bad. And certainly, everyone's going to have their own strengths and weaknesses. But the one thing that they have to be able to do is play nice with each other.
Yeah. And how do you kind of, as a candidate, assess how you might play well with a team? I get there. Okay, so asking questions. What types of questions? I mean, as someone who's in career services all the time, what questions should I ask at the end of the interview, or while I'm on my tour?
Salary. No, kidding. Absolutely kidding.
Yeah. So, what are some of your favorite questions? So you pulled this article, or what questions did you ask, or have you heard that are like, yeah, that's a really good question to ask at an interview, or on a tour, or just when I meet someone? What types of questions you ask to assess culture?
Well, one of the things that you can do well before an interview, even before you apply to that facility, is looking on their website to see what their mission is, see if they have magnet status or are trying to achieve magnet status. That lets you know how much they value the nursing role. If they don't really care about magnet, then you know that maybe nurses aren't held in as high a regard as they might be in other places. Just learning more about the community that's being served, the population of the community that's being served. That might just let you know kind of what you're going to be seeing on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. As far as assessing the culture in the unit itself, I was lucky that where I precepted was where I got the job. So that's why I knew I wanted to be there. Like, okay, this is a team environment. People work well together. They're well supported. They support each other. To me, that was huge.
Mm.
But
I would actually add one more thing: is utilize your alumni network.
Mm.
So if you're really concerned, or you're really not concerned, but you really want to know what's going on the inside on specific units, hopefully, I don't know how detailed the alumni network is, but or find out people who are in that, other nurses that are in that hospital. I mean, friend of a friend of a friend. Hey, what's it like? What's going on? What's it like to work for that manager specifically? What kind of manager are they? Can I talk with some of the nurses? Can I meet some of the nurses? That's another thing you can do at the end of the interview. Can I do a walkthrough of the unit? Can you show me around? Observe how they interact with each other. Do they huddle together? Do they gossip? Are they friendly to you? I mean, if you want to know whether or not they accept new grads very, very easily or not, you can also say, hey, is it possible that I can get the name of your last new grad who came here?
Mm.
Right? And then, because I'm a very, very big relationship, I don't know if it shows, but is to go people to people. And nurses want to help. People want to help. We took this position typically because we like helping other people. And so other alumni is probably the first thing, but then otherwise in the actual interview, go and just ask around and ask those pointed questions. Say, what's your floor like? Do they like each other? Do they hang out with each other? What's the last time you guys had a get together outside of the unit? Now you may not want to be like that. You may not want that kind of atmosphere. Everyone to their own.
Right.
But it's a good way to get a kind of a idea of what's going on.
Awesome.
Yeah, those are really good ideas. I mean, I like the idea of saying, can I take a tour?
Mm.
Can I speak with, like you said, the most recent new grad, most recent new hire, or just any of the nurses on the floor, just to see how they're interacting with each other.
And that's one of the things that I always do with our new hires is that I do take them on. I mean, the cool thing about our hospital that promotion aside is that the nurses are very empowered and they're very active and they're very passionate about everything that they do. Certainly there are outliers in any hospital, any situation, but in the areas, the nurses are incredible, and I'm just very proud of being that. So there's my.
That's good. Two folks who seem very happy with where they're at.
Yeah.
So clearly you found good culture fits for you, and then you're contributing to that environment, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, so that was a good question. Where's my mouse? Okay, so let's see. Oh, here's one directly for Sean. You're still great too, Jeff. Yeah. All right, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, Sean, as I get from the hiring manager perspective, I guess, do you appreciate applicants to follow up after the interview, call, email, thank you card, or is this a nuisance? I don't know if this applies in nursing, but this was a tip in my previous career.
I can tell you officially what my answer would be, and then what actually happens.
Okay.
So officially, it never hurts. Please do. I recommend it, and I know it probably speaks wonders to a lot of people. Actually, it's not even that. Let me rephrase that. There's one person I did hire because they were so persistent, and they literally, but in a good way. They didn't irritate me. It was more it was fairly well spaced out, and but on the other hand, it probably doesn't do as much for me personally. You've kind of got one shot at the interview, and to be able to show what you can do. That's what the interview's for. Right. And if you haven't been the one selected, you'll know fairly soon. And then unfortunately, you can't select everyone, right? And it's unless something has changed, it's going to be hard, in my opinion. Where you can, you got one shot. That's the interview, right? And I don't mean that there's certainly many other interviews continue to reapply, but for me personally, it's because we're so busy,
right?
Being able to respond to all those. In fact, I think officially we are not supposed to respond to them. It's supposed to be handled through HR in terms of all communications. So that's kind of my.
And do you have a preference as to like email or old school handwritten out, or so I'm hearing that it's
do what's you. Okay, be yourself. And if that's the type of person you are, where you follow up everything with an email or with a handwritten note, or continue doing so, and I guarantee you, if it's not going to help you my interview, it'll help you in the world. Okay, because every manager is different. You never know what can happen, and there may be other managers out there that say, "Hey, I didn't get a call back from them. I didn't get a card. They weren't interested. I'm not taking them." So I'm not saying I have the end all be all answer. I'm just letting you know what I look at when I'm going through.
Gotcha.
And let's just expand on the idea of be yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so, if you are trying to be in the interview or in any other, part of the process, if you're trying to be what you think they want, guarantee that if you do get hired, it may not be the right fit for you. I had a classmate, I won't say the person's name, you'll know who it is though, who is not mainstream. And I mean that in the best way. He's a fantastic individual. Everyone in our cohort loved him, but he would not be a good fit for a real mainstream button-up setting. He found a job in a clinical setting with a really interesting patient population. He is thriving. And he was absolutely honest in the interview, and they appreciated his honesty because that was the kind of environment that really appreciated his kind of style. So,
continue with his story. He applied, he told me, almost 60 jobs before he got that one, but it was the right one and the perfect fit for him. And that's, you got to get through those no's to get to that right yes. And for him,
the last thing you want to do is take a job that you're not a good fit for, right? Where you don't fit, you're not being well valued, you don't value the job as well, you don't perform well, you don't. Yeah,
You're there to
find
do
an
your
environment
first
you're
6
going to
months or
thrive,
year
right?
of experience. I'm just going to trudge through this, and
this
then
is your
move
first
on.
job, right? And I'm not saying to be overly picky, and because last time, a couple seconds ago, I was talking about being flexible and understanding.
Right.
So be focused, be goal oriented, but be flexible and know what you can handle, what you can't, what's good for you, and what isn't. So know yourself, be transparent.
Great. Lovely advice. Good job. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question, Kat. All right.
And if it doesn't, sorry.
So in this question from Brittany, we are going to share, hi Brittany, contact information for all of the alum after we gather that from them, and we'll send that out to all the participants. But just in the meantime, if you all could restate where you work and like your title or your unit or whatever, just for refresher.
Okay.
You have lots of letters.
I guess my manager
and
knows where I'm from. I'm here, so I guess it's okay. I'm from Stanford Healthcare. I work in the main hospital. I am assistant patient care manager, so APCM, overseeing about, I don't know how many nurses, over 4 different units. The units are B1, C1, which is a med surge. B1 is a med surge, CF, GIP / hospice, and CF, chronic pain, floor, and then C1 is a pre-post-op observation, 23-hour med surge-ish type of floor, but it is technically outpatient. Patients come in and out. And then also the vascular access services team, which includes all of the nurses putting in the PICC lines and ultrasound guided IVs and such. And then the ambulatory treatment infusion center, which is our outpatient service where patients come in for their infusions. So
quite the portfolio there.
Some days it's wonderful. Other days it's.
And then like my response can be much shorter because I did just graduate. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So Jeff Smith, I work for Mills Peninsula Health Services in Burlingame. I work in the ICU, staff nurse 1. I believe I'll become staff nurse 2 in about 3 weeks.
Hey, good job.
Right? So past my 6-month mark.
Nice.
Okay, that's good. Got a good refresher here. All right, so another question, and this you two might not be able to answer it per se because I think you went into a new grad program. No, you did not actually. Okay, so what are the pros and cons of doing a new grad program versus being hired directly as a nurse? So I know that Stanford Healthcare has a robust new grad program. I don't know how much, if any, you're involved in that. And I know, now I'm reminding myself, you did not utilize a new grad program. So
we just had a conversation about this.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Please enlighten us and our viewers as to your thoughts.
If you are one of the few and lucky enough to be able to get to a new grad program. I didn't have a new grad program, by the way. I actually went directly over to Sutter and Eden Medical Center. That was my first job. But seeing the nurses and how they're treated at Stanford is incredible. They treat the nurses there, the new grads, like they are almost royalty. They expect a lot out of them, but they also give them every opportunity to be successful. So they have their own program, they have their own cohorts that they work together with, that they interact with, they have their special training. Each is tailored to the different types that they're in. It's all regimented, they're all milestone. They have projects that they work on together in order to be able to impart change because they see fresh eyes. Yeah. And our upper management, and I'm talking steps above me, I believe they truly value their opinion and in terms of what they can do, and we look at them as our future leaders.
Great.
So they're given a lot of tools that we weren't, or I wasn't, going into an ICU program and not having a formal new grad program. So I don't know if you would say the same type of thing.
I would. I mean, I also know the benefit of a new grad program, and it is challenging. So I was hired with 7 other people in the ICU, so all of us went through this orientation process at the same time, but I'm the only new grad. So everyone else has med surge, or one was a paramedic for like a decade and then was a nurse for like a year. So everyone came in with experience, except for me, and our orientation process really wasn't focusing as much on the basics of nursing. It was, okay, you're a nurse, here's how we function in the ICU. So my 16-week orientation process, the first 8 weeks was extremely challenging because I'm trying to learn all the basics of nursing, time management, efficiency, everything that you need to know to succeed as a nurse anywhere. At the same time, learning all the advanced aspects of ICU care. It was challenging. But by the end of it, I did feel like I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's also a product of having been a single merit graduate. You pick up quickly. You can't believe how much you actually recall from classes. Like, wow, actually, now it makes sense. I know this. So I think in the end, if you can get into a new grad program, I think I would recommend it, even though I didn't get to experience it. But if you can't, don't be intimidated to the point of, oh no, I'm not going to accept a job unless it's a new grad program. You just suss out what's right for you, but you can
totally agree with
without,
you in terms of that. Like I said, there's no one way for a successful career path.
Yeah.
But certainly there are ways that are easier and ways that can pave your way a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when I'm advising students, I say if I was graduating, plan A would be a new grad program because of these support structures that you all are describing. But our students are well prepared to jump in if they are able to find a good fit.
And when the ICO is perfectly fine, it took a little while. Yeah. But like you said, it was, and quite frankly, I don't consider myself, I shifted over to vascular access and becoming a PICC nurse 6 months into that. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. Anyway.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a good question. Let's see. So here's another one. Advice on applying for new grad programs or staff positions if you don't have your license yet. So either before you're able to take the NCLEX or you're waiting for, I know some of your cohort mates waited 6 weeks. I think that actually you might have been one of them to hear back.
See, I don't know. I probably the next cohort I'll be on I might be part of the hiring committee, but I interview them after they can make it through the first round.
Okay.
So, and whether or not they're good fits for my units. And so, I'm part of a team that does that.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know necessarily in terms of how what the dynamics are.
And as I recall, I think there's some application processes will say upfront whether you need your license now or whether you need it by the time of the interview or if you need it by a certain date. So I think some are flexible and they will let you at least apply and maybe even interview before you actually have your license. But I'm not sure how to track that.
Yeah. And that actually would be my advice as well, is to look at the requirements. And I actually advise on the resume to say eligible to take the NCLEX on this date, like that transparency, expected on this date. So that way they know I don't have it now, but your new grad program starts August 1 and I'll be licensed by then. Or
if they want you, they want you. Trust me, they'll wait for you. If they're not as interested, then they're not going to be. It's not going to make the difference whether or not. So there's nothing to lose to being transparent. It really isn't.
And I think at least for Stanford, I was able to apply.
I think you are
before I even had my test date.
Yeah, I think you are.
I'm almost positive because I
they usually say this graduating class can apply at this for this cohort.
Yeah.
Right.
Great. Okay. So we got another question here. What about doing a new grad program, i.e. med-surg, even if it isn't in your specialty area of interest?
There's a trillion questions I'd follow up with that.
Yeah, so what are types of things that people should be considering?
So if you're interested in L&D, would you be interested in taking med-surg? Or if you want interested in psych, or it's only going to help you to have that med-surg background. But if you really truly know what you absolutely want to do, then go do it. And you have other opportunities. You have other opportunities, right? If you don't, then take the job, right, and go to the new grad position. But if you have other opportunities that may, start you sooner in a different area, then it just depends on what are your options, really, for me at least.
Right.
I think that's good advice. I mean, if you already know what you want to do, and you know it's labor and delivery, for example, you know it's peds, you know it's psych.
Or would you go to adult? Yeah.
Then I wouldn't waste my time.
But if you don't have
doing
if you don't have a job offer.
But yeah, and let's say I'm fortunate, I'm married, right? So I've got someone who could support me in the meantime. It's like I can pay.
Although there was one of my classmates who she was offered a position in Southern California for a new grad position, and she was also offered her PEDS position in Chicago. She's now an assistant patient care manager over in Chicago, and I hear she's moving back to the area, but very, very successful. And she needed to wait to see whether or not she was going to get the offer she was already doing a precepting position, and she was waiting to see whether she got that position. But the new grad position wanted to know immediately.
Yeah.
And
that's tough.
When I spoke with her, I said, follow your heart. If you know you want PEDS and you know that and they like you and you feel like you're in there, I'd stick it out. And she did. It turned out really well. She ended up being hired there, and then I think she went out to Chicago, and then she's phenomenal person and nurse.
And I think even if you're not certain about what you want to do, or even if you do feel like I'm a PEDS nurse, I'm gonna be a PEDS nurse, but another opportunity comes up, and you're willing to try to at least get that experience, I say go for it. A number of my clinical instructors or nurse preceptors that I had in my clinicals said, "Oh yeah, I always thought I'd be doing this, but I took this job here because it was an opportunity. Loved it. I've never left. I've never done what I originally thought I would do 20 years ago." Yeah. So you never know if that job in med surg, you may go, this is the place I want to be at. I love this department. I love these people. Love what I'm doing. You never know. Yeah. So especially if you're not dead set, I must do this one thing, and you have an opportunity for a new grad program and something that you think, well, okay, I'll give it a try. Worst case scenario, you got experience.
Right.
Yeah, I never set out to be a PIC nurse, ever. I was recruited by the team, and they said, we think you'd be good at it, and the next thing you know, that I'm leading the PIC team over at Stanford. So, 2 years later.
Yeah.
So 3 years later. So I mean, you never know where things can take you.
Right.
And so just be open, and it all depends. I mean, I don't think there's 100% answer for anything.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes I get kind of the other end of the spectrum questions from folks is, well, I don't want to start off in this specialty because then I'll get pigeonholed and then I'll never be able to do anything else.
So I question the hospital that will pigeonhole you. And I'd more take a look at the hospital that's hiring you that might pigeonhole you.
Yeah.
Our attitude in our units is a lot of times, because people come in as new grads, my attitude is if you want to be an ER nurse, if you want to be an ICU nurse, if you want to go into trauma, I'll help you get there. And we'll train you up, and we'll give you the tools to have a good very, very good firm background and offer you breadth that will help you get to that position. I know managers there. We'll have conversations. We'll get you there. Granted, you need to perform.
Right, of course, yeah.
But certainly we will enable you to get there. And I hope if they don't have that attitude, I'd more question whether or not you want to be at that hospital, as opposed to that general question.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Well, I think some people have asked that question because I remember when I was still a student, we were wondering the same thing there. It's not so much within the same hospital or same organization, but let's say you start out doing something very specific in one hospital, and you're wondering, can that translate? Can I then go into emergency room or ICU? I know for some things like ICU, let's say you start off in med surg. It can be difficult to transition to ICU. In certain places, they don't want to hire someone unless you already have that critical care experience.
Yeah, and I've seen that as well in some of the hospitals that I've been around. Currently at Stanford, then we have a lot of people who shift, and so it's really neat to be able to see whether whether or not they go in oncology and BMT, or whether or not they go over to ortho or ICU, and they have specific training paths from there too. It's pretty cool to see.
So it's a mixed bag. I think it depends on what organization you go to. Some will say, oh, you've only done L&D. Oh, we're not going to accept your application for ICU. We're not going to take you seriously.
And that's maybe you need to work it within your own hospital to make that shift before you can make the other shift. Because I can see where that could pigeonhole you. Now, the other thing is that's a question I get asked often from new nurses or people in nursing school is, should I take this position in the SNF? Should I take this position? I need a job.
Yep.
I can't answer that question. You gotta answer that one for yourself. We do have people who have come from, blood bank and other areas that we certainly will look at, but it typically takes a relationship.
Yeah.
To be had where you're looked at, and I could see where that'd be a tougher job. But I'm not trying to say one's better than the other. They're just different, and sometimes it can be harder to make those kinds of shifts.
Right. Okay, so we got through most of the questions, and it's actually 11:57. So I'm gonna throw out to you all final thoughts, words of wisdom, things that you didn't get to say yet that you're just like, I really need to put this out there. The golden nugget of, advice or suggestions or well wishes to our folks who are viewing and or will watch this later.
I think I will reiterate what Julia was saying earlier. Especially if you are still in the program or you just graduated, you're shell-shocked right now. You are overwhelmed. You don't have any time. You're hearing all these things. Oh, do this, do this, do this. And you're thinking, I have no time. Totally understand that. I was just there recently myself. Cut yourself some slack. You are already an amazing individual to get into the program in the first place. You are a unique person that is going to be someone who's going to find a way to excel in nursing, no matter what niche it is that you find. So don't beat yourself up. I graduated in November this past year. I've got several classmates who are still looking. One of whom, I think, waited 6 months to even start looking. She panicked. She had a complete meltdown after school was over, and the longer it took her to start applying, the more terrified she was of nursing. Like, my skills are old. I don't know anything anymore. She's finally overcome that, and she's got a lot of good interviews going right now. I guess my words of advice are just don't. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think that she has an
hiring.
interview with y'all.
Yeah, I think she does. So it seems daunting, and it's like, I've got to do yet another thing. I just finished studying for the NCLEX, now I've got to do this. It's painful. It's not easy. It can be a lot of work, but give yourself the time and cut yourself the slack.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
One piece of advice that hasn't come up yet today is don't be afraid or hesitant to ask for help. I know that we're here to help others. And that's one of the common core values of being a nurse. But we have to be open to get help from others, and we have to ask. One of my friends, my dear friends, classmates, I talked to her about this. She ended up talking to one of her relatives. They had a friend over at Stanford. She's now been there for the last 6 years. So she ended up getting, just because of contacts, and she actually came to me and said, Sean, thank you very much for that piece of advice. I don't think I'd be here, if I wasn't afraid to ask for it.
Yeah.
So the piece behind that is, a lot of times we will only accept help if we have something we can give ourselves. But if we do have friends and we do have family, they don't need anything in return. Okay, we the only time we ever really need to return from are acquaintances. So are they truly your friend? They want to help you. They want to help you. They want to see you be successful. You've already invested in yourself. You've already spent so much time and effort in becoming as successful as you have, just getting to the program itself. Take the time, talk to people, ask everyone that you know, do you know anyone in the industry? Right? And get help. And if someone offers help that you don't even know, is a stranger, accept it with open arms. And don't be afraid to ask, because we lose a lot of opportunities if we don't do that. You never know who knows who.
Yeah, great advice. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you both for your time. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to end the broadcast now, and the recording will be available at this link. Thanks.